Hey everybody, Hoosier Jedi here with another review for you. This time we're talking about episode 16 of season 5 of Star Wars The Clone Wars, called The Lawless. Now folks, ever since I saw the previews for this upcoming season, it seems like this is the episode that I've been waiting for. This is the meaty, juicy goodness that this series is when it is at its best. Now, our time spent with the Commander Gascon, the Ferengi tube grub, is what the show tends to be like when it's at its lowest. So, yeah. But that said, let's dive right into what was an awesome, awesome episode. Alright, so this is a lot of what this show has been building to for years coming together. This is, of course, a lot of what has been building this season coming together. And it comes together in a way that is just insanely violent and just awesome as heck. Of course, we get to see some more continuity with things, like we see Satine's nephew Corky again. And we get to learn quite a bit more about Satine's family, but we'll get onto that right a little bit more. Let's talk about a little bit more about what's going on here. First of all, the divisions. Divisions are really kind of a theme here. We see the divisions between the members of Death Watch who broke away after the death of Vizsla. We see, of course, just the general division among the Mandalorians. We see division between the Jedi over how to handle this situation. And one thing that I have to say that was a really nice touch was, if you'll notice, that the Mandalorians who have pledged allegiance to Maul have painted their armor red, and one of them, who even captures Satine at the very end, has added Maul-like horns to the top of his helmet. And I really do have to give the folks who make the show credit for something just as simple and subtle as that. It's not in your face. If you're not paying attention, you could miss it. But if you do notice these sort of details, if you notice the horns on that guy's head, it really, really does tell you an awful lot about what's going on here, and more importantly, about the level of control that Maul has established. You know, there is no joking around here. Maul is the guy who is in charge on Mandalore. He's the top guy there. He has the Prime Minister as his puppet. He has all these criminals who are under him. He has Savage. And yet, with just one little flick, this all comes a tumbling down. But we'll talk about that in a moment. Well, a lot of what's going on here is, of course, centered around Darth Maul. This episode is really Obi-Wan Kenobi's story. Of course, his relationship with Satine is very much at the forefront, and I liked how her message was extremely reminiscent of the message that Leia records for Obi-Wan Kenobi in the original Star Wars movie. There was just a small part of me that was really hoping that she might even say, "Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope." But I think that might have been laying it on just a little too thick. Here we get shades of the scene from the original movie, and that's really all that's needed. It's a matter of just the right amount so often, and here we get just the right amount of all of that. Now, this of course leads to Obi-Wan kind of going against the Jedi to a degree, and coming to Mandalore to find out what's going on here. Now, this sort of bugs me because, yes, Mandalore is a neutral system, but given the importance of the neutral systems, and given especially just how dangerous the Mandalorians can be, the idea that the Jedi are just going to say, "Oh, look, yeah, we can't do anything about this." Like, look, dudes, why don't you just send somebody to find out what's going on? I mean, request that the Republic send somebody to investigate. You can do that. I mean, people go on fact-finding missions all the time. Or you can just send the Jedi who are specialized in doing the sneaky stuff, like the Jedi Shadows and the Jedi Sentinels to find out what's going on. I mean, it's not like the Jedi are not above bending the rules when they need to. And the idea that the Jedi are just going to let the Republic hamstring them like this, now on the one hand, it seems extremely stupid. But on the other, it is the very fact that the Jedi in many ways did let the Republic hamstring them at times that ultimately let Palpatine succeed in destroying them. I mean, really, the Jedi were extremely reluctant to join the Clone Wars, to be generals in their armies, to lead the clone army. It's made quite clear that they really do have some serious issues with what's going on. But the Jedi cannot deny that this is one of those situations where they really do have to put their concerns aside and fight to defend the Republic. Now, granted, a lot of this isn't really spelled out as well as it should have been in, say, the movies or even here in the Clone Wars TV show. You really have to go into the expanded universe before it's really made clear that the Jedi are not 100% cool with what's going on with the clones. Many people have accused the Jedi of just being hunky-dory with leading what you could very arguably make the case of being a slave army. Now, that isn't true, but the fact that this has not really been made sufficiently clear is really one of the great failings of modern Star Wars. But anyway, bringing it all back. Now, granted, there is, the Jedi or the Republic could have done all that, but there's no real story there if Obi-Wan doesn't go and do it himself. Now, just to kind of jump back to where I was talking about a minute ago, we have seen, of course, the Jedi do undercover things several times over the course of the series. So the idea that there really was the Jedi couldn't come up with some justification for sending Obi-Wan there legitimately, it seems pretty BS. But anyway, we of course get to see Obi-Wan, reunited with Satine, and now the dynamic between them is really, really great stuff. It shines an awful lot of light on Obi-Wan as a character, especially when he is first introduced. The idea that there was this woman that he loved so much that he seriously would have left the Jedi Order in order to be with her. It really did an awful lot to humanize Obi-Wan Kenobi in the eyes of many fans, including myself. And here we get to see the ultimate fate of Satine. Now, if you're familiar with the expanded universe, the history of the Mandalorians and all this other stuff, the idea of the new Mandalorians failing is of course inevitable, and I, like a lot of fans, figured that Satine was probably not going to be getting out of this one alive. And of course, that's exactly what happens. She is struck down by Darth Maul, this becoming the second person incredibly close to Obi-Wan Kenobi who has been killed by Darth Maul. And I like that in a way Satine has the chance to say to Obi-Wan what Qui-Gon Jinn probably would have if he could, and that is to urge him to not let this drive him to the dark side. And I gotta say though, that was genuinely a very, very, very heartbreaking scene. And I like how Maul doesn't immediately ha ha ha, okay, now I'm gonna cut your head off. He wants to make Obi-Wan suffer. He even says, throw him in a cell and let him rot with his misery. Of course, this is him wanting Obi-Wan to understand what it was like for him to be broken and shattered for all those years, basically living in a hole. Now granted, the most rational thing would have been to kill Obi-Wan on the spot, but one of the repeated failings of Sith is they like to gloat, they are easily fall victim to their own egos, and of course that they are incredibly petty. But even so, that certainly does not mean that Sith cannot be formidable opponents, and here we see that demonstrated so beautifully. I gotta say, folks, this is probably the greatest. This is really seriously the whole three-way between Savage, Opress, Darth Maul, and Darth Sidious. This has got to be the greatest fight they have ever done on the show. It was just mind-blowingly awesome. And now I'm sure there's some people out there who are complaining about this in the same way that they complained about how Palpatine fought Yoda at the end of Revenge of the Sith. He's the Emperor, he really shouldn't be going around and doing all this, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I'm sorry, I gotta say that I think those objections are just absolutely stupid. If all the Emperor was an old man who just sat on his throne and occasionally could shoot lightning out of his hands, seriously, why in the world would Darth Vader have taken orders from him? Well, now you see very clearly as to why Darth Vader did not try and pick a fight with the Emperor, at least not directly. If you're familiar with some of the expanded universe things, you see that he wasn't above being a little bit more sneaky about the whole situation, which is of course in keeping with Sith tradition. In fact, while I was even watching that fight, I was actually I was thinking quite a bit about the climax to the story of Darth Bane, if you are familiar with that, and if not, I won't spoil it for you. But yeah, guys, if you haven't done so, do yourself a favor and go and read the Darth Bane stories. They're really, really good stuff. But anyway, this fight, going back to it, this is one of the things that I saw in the preview for this season, and it's just made. This is what I've been waiting for, just to see this particular fight. And this gives us perfect illustration as to why Yoda lost that fight in Revenge of the Sith. Now stop and think about that for a moment. This means that Palpatine has defeated Savage Opress, Darth Maul, Yoda, Kit Fisto, and those other two guys from the Jedi Council who came with Mace Windu to the Senate building at the end. And even then, he almost beat Mace Windu too. So the idea that the Emperor is just some old man, I really can't understand why anybody would really want that to be true. Especially given the alternative of what we are presented with here. Here we are presented with a very, very good reason as to why any sane person would be absolutely terrified of Darth Sidious. And getting back to all that. I know some people might kind of object. It's like, wait a minute, we've never seen Darth Sidious fighting with two lightsabers before. Well, in the movies, Darth Maul fought with a double-bladed lightsaber. Here, he seems to prefer using the one. So, just because we've never seen Darth Sidious fight with two lightsabers at once doesn't mean that he can't do it. I mean, he's the friggin' Dark Lord of the Sith. I'm sure if he wants to, he can pull off stuff like that. Heck, maybe it's something he picked up from Count Dooku. And we know... No, wait. No. Dooku fights with one blade. It was Anakin who tried to dual wield against him in Attack of the Clones, and that worked out pretty badly. So, yeah, disregard that. Anyway, we do get to see the death of Savage Opress. And I do like that earlier Obi-Wan had even kind of commented to Maul, like, I've seen your village, I understand where you guys come from. And you got to give Obi-Wan credit. Even under these circumstances, he is still trying to show compassion, to really follow the Jedi way, to lead Maul away from the dark side. I mean, it doesn't work. And of course, it just really gets under Maul's skin even more. But here at the very end, we are really, even after all the horrible things he's done, including murder children, we get to see a glimpse of the person that Savage was, of the person who was in many ways a weak man, but a good man. And then he was a man who was made strong, but he became evil. And then here at the very end, Savage is really, in a way, still only thinking of his brother. Only this time his brother is Maul rather than Farrell. And again, this is completely in keeping with Savage's character. And basically, at the end of the day, it really does seem to go out on the note that Savage was a tragic character. And this is really, again, very clearly illustrated by the little speech that Obi-Wan gives and tries to sell to Maul. And of course, the thing is though that Maul really did embrace that idea. Well, Savage, he really had it thrust upon him much more. Now, granted, we don't know exactly what happened, and we were always led to believe that what we saw happen to Savage is also what happened to Maul. But Savage, and that is, of course, does make sense. But in any case, Savage still never quite embraced it as fully as Maul did, and that is really the big difference between the two. But another thing Obi-Wan does say is that the dark side ultimately makes you weak. And, well, here we see a perfect illustration of that. After he is defeated, Darth Maul literally begs for his life. He has all this power, he has all this going on, but underneath it all, when it's not enough, he succumbs to fear. He, again, grovels and begs for his life, and it really just shows that the dark side is weak. Obi-Wan, as upset as he is, as traumatized he is, he manages to hold on to who he is, and that is why he is able to come through the situation, as terrible and heartbreaking as it is for him, with strength. And that's a strength that he's going to need, because there's still some really bad stuff going on. And man, it is genuinely frightening thinking about what in the world does Darth Sidious have in mind. In fact, this was actually slightly reminiscent of, in my mind, of the bad ending, the dark side ending to the first Star Wars: The Force Unleashed game. And if you're familiar with that storyline, you probably understand where I'm coming from there. Now, let me see here. Yes, I almost forgot. There were some things about the stuff going on with Sidious that I wanted to talk about. First of all, I loved it when Darth Maul said that I sense a presence. Again, a little bit of a nod to, I forget exactly, I sense a presence, one that I have not felt for a long time, or something like that. That I'm pretty sure it was Darth Vader who said that in the original movies. And of course, one of the most awesome parts, again, a very subtle thing, but really great, was we get to hear a little bit of the Imperial March when Darth Sidious arrives on Mandalore and starts showing why he's the baddest guy around. Now, of course, we've seen little bits of the Imperial March played a few times before over the course of the show. But this was really always only used when Anakin was doing something kind of dark side, to remind us of his ultimate destiny of becoming Darth Vader. Well, here we see it used to, I guess, remind us of the inevitability of Darth Sidious's triumph, that the Republic will become the Empire, and that everything that our heroes are working for is not going to go their way, at least not at the end game. Now, one other thing that I do want to briefly mention is I talked a little bit about the little shuriken weapons that we saw last time around, and how I thought it would be really cool to see that in the bounty hunter class, obviously modeled after the Mandalorians in Star Wars: The Old Republic. Here we get to see the explosive darts that the bounty hunters get used here in the show, and I got an enormous kick out of that, because the explosive dart is really one of the go-to tricks if you're playing bounty hunter in Tor. We also get to see the personal shields. You can equip those in that game. Many characters, not just bounty hunters, can use those. Now, granted, I'm pretty sure that shields have been used like that elsewhere in Star Wars. But I was always made to understand that in the time frame where these are being used, that they were actually rather rare. So seeing so many of the Mandalorians have them, that seemed a little unusual. But I'm not really gonna get bent out of shape over that. Let me see here. Oh yeah, one thing that I wanted to say about Savage Opress and his death scene. First of all, yeah, really, really great acting by Clancy Brown. Savage's voice actor there, but Clancy Brown's a real pro, so that's no surprise. Did you notice how Savage's clothes is banished with him? Again, I'm not really sure how much sense that makes, but I don't think we're supposed to lean too heavily on logic when it comes to the magic of the Night Sisters. I was also kind of wondering if maybe that green misty energy was going to flow from Savage into Maul and maybe kind of empower him so that he could stand a better chance against Sidious. Of course, that didn't happen, and yeah, you almost feel sorry for Darth Maul, but you can't say that the guy doesn't really deserve what's happening to him after everything that he's done. So, I think that really covers most of what it is that I wanted to talk about this time around. So there's still a pretty decent number of episodes left in this season, so I'm sure that we haven't seen the last of Darth Sidious and his nasty surprises, but that is something that I really want to see. I really want to see more of what's going on with Sidious and just get a little bit better idea of how Palpatine's plans are really coming to fruition. I think that's something that really they could explore with the remainder of the season. Oh, geez, I almost forgot to talk about Bo-Katan. Man, where is my head? Now, the idea that she is Satine's sister, that's certainly a case of some very bitter irony. And it is illustrated very well. We do see Satine say, okay, we're going to have to go to my sister for help. Obi-Wan says, well, okay, who's your sister? And then immediately stuff starts going bad, so we really don't have the time to dwell on that. So that really makes it great when Obi-Wan kind of puts two and two together and hits us with this. And it was like, whoa, I never would have imagined that it was Bo-Katan, but if that's the case, if you stop and you think and you go back over what we've seen the last couple episodes, then what must have been going through each of those, Satine and Bo's minds when all this stuff was happening? It just adds some incredible depth, and really, what must those two have been feeling? I just really kind of wish we could sort of have gotten an idea of that. Now, doesn't mean that we won't see that happen in future episodes. I certainly wouldn't be surprised if we see more of Bo-Katan in the future. But yeah, that's I guess something to think about. Well, anyway, folks, although if you stop and think about it, look at what's going on in this episode. Brothers and sisters. Divisions. Anyway, folks, we're going to wrap it up there. As always, please comment, rate, and subscribe. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Who's Your Jedi. Till next time, take care and have a good one.